Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. Back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight, but this time we're not safe and sound. Not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the FPV News. How you doing today, Blunty?
Good, Joshua. How's it going?
Oh, good too, man. Good to be here. Good to be back with the news after we took last week off because there was no news.
Yeah.
But, well, I mean, there probably was news, but we didn't know about it. And that's all
Barely.
changed this week.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly has. We got a lot of emails from you guys. But if you haven't, or you got more information, we'd love you to email news@fpvknowitall.com down there. I've had a few people ask me what the email is, so we don't want you to forget. It's down on the screen for every show, so you can always remember it.
And now we have like 2 weeks worth of news. In fact, we
Yes.
pushed like half the stories off till next week. But we
That's
took the
true.
ones that we really thought were the most significant to tell you guys about, and we are going to tell you about them. Yeah. It's going to be it's going to be one of those days. All right. Well, that's a shame. We really do have a lot of news. We're going to try to keep going, but that's not a good sign. Should I just wait and like reboot my router now real quick to see if it happens one more time? We're going to pause and reboot the router. And then I don't know what to say.
All right.
Yeah. It's just been happening. I don't know what to do. Let's get into it. Let's get into it before anything else happens. Fingers crossed. We're going to start with some public service announcements. Little things that are significant for you to know, but that you might not. Did I close that? I closed that window that I was sharing with you, didn't I, Blunty?
Yeah. First up, we've got we got a PSA about Skyone. We wanted to let you know that Skyone, finally, we've talked, for a while, on and off about some Skyone module issues with their Steady View module, their rapid mix that Yushin calls it. Mm-hmm. And for a while, they've been, working on the software, trying to get stuff fixed. But they've released a Facebook post, and they let us know that they released a new version 3.3 module. It's easily identifiable. So if you look right on the top board there, you can see this is actually the one in the picture is the ELRS version. So they've got one with the backpack as well you can buy.
Nice.
But they released a $25 version 3.3 board. And basically, if you click on that standard version in that link right there for us, if you see this version 3.3, well, if there's a picture of it, if you see the version 3.3 on your board, you've already got this board. They started shipping these like 2 to 3 months ago on new hardware. I've talked to multiple users who already have this board. So just so you know, and you don't spend money on something you don't need, unless you're trying to get the backpack,
Where are you
do not
see
need
that,
to order
Blunty?
this. It's right. It's on the top side of the USB is where it will be. Instead of where the writing is the bottom there, it's just on the other side. And it says version 3.3. It's very clear. You'll see it as soon as you pop open the module.
Yeah, and a lot of people saw this and were like, "Oh, okay, well, thank you for making me buy the module that fixes the problem that should have been fixed in the first place." It's a shame that Skyone was unable to solve this with firmware updates, which was always my hope. TBS Fusion took a little tweaking to get right, and Rapid Fire took a little tweaking to get right. And I hoped that Skyone would do the same thing, but they apparently didn't. Of course, we also have to wonder, can we trust them this time when they say that the issue is actually fixed? Because they've said that before.
Right. Well, we're hoping now that they're selling new hardware, that they're doing this for a reason, and that this is the fixed hardware. They feel good about where they're at. Hopefully we can get some user reports on that version 3.3. One of the major issues that, obviously, like you said, people are having is a $25 board or a $30 worth of backpack that you're going to pay for this. TBS did this. We do have to mention that TBS did this with the Fusion, but the difference is the Fusion replaced the other board, and the Fusion was only $10. Also, the Fusion did not have as bad of issues, I would say. My memory of the Fusion was it was just a little bit lower quality than the Rapid Fire, but it was still fine. And you weren't there weren't major module issues with certain camera setups. And it's sort of an apples to oranges situation, right? So
and TBS also sold the original Fusion module for a lower price, with the expectation that they would upgrade it later. And
that's very true.
The price of the upgrade was the same as the difference between the price and the upgraded module. So people who bought early with the TBS Fusion did not lose a penny. Well, they might have paid twice for shipping. Okay. But here, people who bought the Skyone goggles are now being asked to pay another $25, which, if it delivers Rapid Fire and Fusion-like performance, $25 is a hell of a good price. That's, but if you bought the goggles, you were probably pretty annoyed that you're now being asked to shell out. Instead of, Skyone could have said, if you already own our goggles, we'll give you this module for free or the cost of shipping. And that would have been the thing to do. And it's a shame that they aren't, but there you go.
Right. The one thing I would say is, this is probably worth waiting on reviews for. I don't. Yeah. So we've seen the track record. So just wait and see, see what people's experience is and see if everybody's like, oh yeah, this is amazing. Everything's solved, and then order it, I definitely think it's worth waiting. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's the kind of content I could make. But I kind of...
That's true.
The thing is, I haven't... mine have been fine. So I'm not even sure how I could reliably prove that it was fixed.
Basically, use your old module, try to find a bad setup, and then switch to the new module and try to see if it's fixed or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just have to listen as they get out there and see what people are saying. Because if I test it and say it's fine, well, I test my current one and it's fine. So, all right.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got a PSA about the DJI Action 3. The DJI Action 3. That's the new one. The one that's the successor to the Osmo. Right?
Yes, that's correct.
That we concluded that the Hero 11 was basically better.
Yes, correct. And in the ever-going tales of why that is, turns out there's an issue with the DJI Action 3 that seems to be pretty widespread. DJI is essentially blaming this issue on software. They're saying that they've got an update for this, and they're working through this stuff, and you can flash software, and basically they're going to try another firmware update to fix it, they say, but you can adjust these parameters. However, if you click the next link, we've actually got a video from And this guy,
So with
and he went through
the
and checked with
sharpness
the
test sheet.
diopter. And so this is, Rush Media, and he went through and checked with a diopter. And so he compared the two firmwares with a diopter to show what was happening, basically. And he saw that, when he used the diopter with the Action 3, he was getting an improved, like a clarity, like it was sharper with the +4. And then he noticed with the GoPro Hero 11 with the same diopter, just to show, like, it goes blurry, right?
As you would expect. If your lens is working correctly and then you add a diopter, it gets blurry.
Yep. And so basically he just basically did a bunch of testing to show that, like, under all conditions he could test. If you use the diopter with the, with this camera, it's better with a +4 diopter. And that shows that the actual camera, like the physical camera, is out of focus.
Yeah, this is not a software issue. This shows that the lens itself is not in focus in some way. And so then DJI released firmware that's supposed to fix it, but basically all it does is add sharpening in software, which is not how you fix a focus problem.
Yeah, this video, we linked one more, both go through it, and they just show that, like, they compare, if you showed the second video, he just goes through and compares, like, he actually goes through and sharpens in Resolve versus, versus, like, what the camera's doing, and kind of shows that, like, hey, this is pretty clearly, the same effect that's happening.
It's pretty subtle. I mean, it's probably less subtle if you're doing 4K with a zoom in and stuff.
Yeah, but basically it's the same issue. It's still blurry, and it doesn't seem like it's going to get fixed at all with firmware, so it's unfortunate.
Oh, no.
And hopefully DJI can do something about it. But I mean, they're basically blaming it on firmware, and they're going to continually say they can fix it. So well, I don't know.
Clearly BS.
Yeah. Not sure what the solution is.
That's clearly BS. If you can fix it with a diopter lens, the lens is messed up.
100%.
That's just a fact.
Yeah.
So if you have an Osmo, I don't know, what do you do? Are all Osmo 3s, Action 3s affected, or is it only some?
I'm not able to. I can't tell you that for sure, but it seems like there's a lot of people with this issue, and I think a lot of people are not doing close-ups too. It seems like it's fairly close you have to get for this to be an issue. That focus distance or whatever. So yeah, I would be interested to hear from people who have one, because I don't think a lot of people bought these. I had trouble locating people who even had these to let me know. So
yeah, well, more reason. That's a weird thing for DJI to get wrong. On the other hand, in some ways, it's actually in character for DJI to release a product that's like 95% like really good, and then like has this weird 5% problem that seems like they should have known better. It's also kind of DJI thing to do. All right, well, we're going to move on because, like I said, we are packed this week. We're going to try and get through it in a timely manner. And we're going to move on to our first real story, which is that the GoPro Mini 11, which was supposed to release today, everybody with their pre-orders in, waiting for that Hero 11 Mini, it got delayed at the last minute.
It sure did. And GoPro barely said anything about it, really. Their statement was, hey, this Black Mini is an incredible camera, and we're giving ourselves a little more time to perfect the product for our excited customers. So yeah, basically everybody was expecting to see shipping notices, and instead they got a notice of delay, and that the new shipping date is moved to November the 18th. So if you had a pre-order, you now know you're not going to get it. And it won't be the 18th. Hopefully it doesn't delay again. Hopefully it'll come out as a good camera. Hopefully there aren't major issues.
Well, it's probably, I mean, you would think that it would be essentially a Hero 11 in most ways. Any guesses as to why they delayed it? Like, I have a guess. It's not based on anything.
My only guess could be heat. Like
that was my guess.
Yeah.
Take the same camera, make it smaller, you have heat buildup problems. And they got really burned with the Hero 10 when they released the Hero 10 and it was overheating and shutting down. And I think that they may be trying to take that seriously, which, if true, is good. Annoying that they didn't get their release date, but better to delay it than to release it and have it have problems. DJI.
Yeah, we do know they're out there and they're working for some people. I know Casey Neistat was spotted using one on a surfboard recently. Chile in chat says there was one using the Red Bull Rampage, so they are out there and working on it. So hopefully we'll see that sometime soon. I know a lot of people are interested in that Mini because it's just gets rid of the screen most people don't need. So hopefully we'll see that soon.
I like the phrase "giving ourselves more time to perfect it." I'm going to try to remember that Like when your boss is like, "Where's the project? You were supposed to deliver it yesterday." You'd be like, "Well, I'm giving myself more time to perfect it, and I'll let you know when it's ready." It's good.
All right.
All right. Next up,
we've got a smattering of Walksnail news.
Yeah.
Walksnail Avatar has been pushing lately.
Yeah. We named this
so
section Tryhards.
Yeah, we're here to let you know how hard they're trying and what they're doing. So first up, Rotor Riot has got a deal on the Dominator, the avatars, where they're doing a 30-day money-back guarantee. They've also got some discounts. That's kind of just regular discounts and stuff. But they are doing a couple interesting things. One is they've got a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you buy any of this Dominator products that are labeled with 30-day money-back guarantee, from the day you order from the day you receive them, you have 30 days to literally send them back, and they will send you a shipping label to send back to them. You don't have to
pay return shipping. Zero risk.
It's literally just buy these and try them, and then send them back, and we'll send you a shipping label. There's zero risk, and basically they're trying to get these in people's hands.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other thing,
they're also doing free shipping to the EU and the UK. Was that what you were about to say?
Yes. I was going to say that too. So that's another interesting thing. We're going to have people listening, I'm sure, from the EU and the UK who are like, yeah, but I can't order from Rotor Riot. Well, they got free shipping for you. So I'm sure there's still import tax, but compared to where you're normally shopping from, it may not be a factor. Something to consider for sure. So it's kind of interesting. They're definitely pushing this system hard and trying to get people to look through these goggles. That's for sure.
And people are having weird reaction to this. I think that some of it is just because some people will take any excuse to hate on Rotor Riot, and I'm not going to really engage with that. If that's how you feel, then that's how you feel, and I'm probably not going to change your mind. But like they have been doing these promos, and people are saying, "Oh, it must not be selling," and it's like, if they're reducing the price and trying to get it in your hands with promotions, like, why are you mad about that? Right?
Yeah.
This is a great, I mean, buy it or don't buy it, but you have to agree that this is a good move for the customer. And I don't know how you could be mad about it.
Well, I think the scary thing for people is if, look at our next two stories about more discounts and ways to save money on the system. I think people's concern is that if this continues to happen and they cannot get people to jump in, they're going to have to abandon the system. What's the lifetime they've got in this, right? Am I going to lose this in a year? DJI, we've talked about losing in 2, 3, 4 years after release. We're talking about this could be as little as a year, because who's actually supporting it, right? What money does CADX really have behind this? Is this their full bore? Rotor Riot is under a Red Cat now, so Red Cat could make the decision to pull it. It may not be Rotor Riot, it may not be Fat Shark.
Red Cat could pull the Fat Shark. I mean, that wouldn't affect CADX directly, but
sure.
I think you're right that I think that the people who say it must not be selling are probably right. That if they were selling out everything, they wouldn't drop the price and refund it. So they're trying to get it into people's hands. But at the end of the day, if what they're doing is good for the customer, like even if you say, well, so they reduced the price, but I feel, not me, but this hypothetical person, if you feel like it is fundamentally an unworthy product, then if they reduce the price, you would say, well, they're just trying to get you to pay less for something you won't like in the long run. That's not a good deal for the customer. But a 30-day money-back guarantee, man, if you buy it and you fly it for 30 days, you're going to know whether you like it or not. And you could just slap a shipping label on it, put it back in a box, and get your money back. That's like, there's no loss. There's probably some risk somewhere in that, but it's something.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that basically brings us right into our next story, which is CADX is discounting Walksnail on their side for owners of multiple CADX cameras, DJI cameras. So if you bought a bunch of CADX DJI stuff and you have proofs of purchase, it seems like they're asking for evidence of you purchasing this stuff. If you have 6 or above CADX Vista Series products, you get 40% off on the same number of Walksnail products. If you have 10 or above CADX Vista Series products, you get 50% off on the same number of CADX or Walksnail products. So it seems like, and then this third one is very weird. I'm not sure I understand what it really means. It says pilots who have collected all the products of CADX since its release will get a set of free
all the way
avatar
back
system.
to like the F2 camera.
Yeah, that seems like insanely impossible, and nobody would ever do that. But
I mean, well, somewhere out there, someone's going to try to claim this, but it's a bold move.
Yeah, and I would also say it's not super clear like what a Walksnail product is. I believe they mean a VTX camera bundle, right? But it's hard to know exactly what they mean, so it's a little vague. But they do have, it's just basically free for you to email them this information, and they will send you a coupon for these discounted products. So again, they're just trying to push. It seems like they're just trying to push these Walksnail VTXs.
Yeah. I think that there's an angle to this announcement from Caddx that is relevant to anybody who flies DJI, which is that when DJI and Caddx ended their exclusive relationship, as they put it, what that said to me is that DJI will no longer be providing video transmitters to Caddx. They're going through RunCam now. It's okay, fine. But Caddx said, we still have parts to make cameras like the Nebula Pro for the DJI system. And I thought, well, okay, I suppose if you needed a spare Nebula Pro, that would be good to be able to get. But Caddx presumably can put those same sensors and components into Walksnail cameras, right? And this feels to me like they're saying we're moving to work hard in on Walksnail and we're not doing DJI stuff anymore. And to me, this announcement makes me feel like the days where Caddx will continue to make DJI cameras are limited. I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting.
Yeah, I don't know. I think about it the other way, sort of, which is like, I don't know. They're probably going to sell those as long as they can. That would be my guess. And if they are the same sensors, then it's only easier for them to build both, right?
But let's
say it's free money, right?
But here's the thing. Who's going to be buying Caddx cameras without a video transmitter? Let's say you're an iFlight or a GepRC or a Diatone and you're making bind and flies. Are you going to buy cameras from Caddx and video transmitters from RunCam? If you're RunCam, are you going to sell video transmitters without cameras? No. Why would you do that?
Well, sure. I mean, everybody sells standalones, but I don't think the goal is to get you another camera on it. But like, I mean, I get where you're coming from. Like, I just think like, people know to buy those cameras. They like those cameras, and I'm sure Caddx still thinks their cameras are better than RunCam. So
I mean, I agree that their cameras are better. The Nebula Pro is a very, very, probably the best camera, second to the DJI camera by a small margin. But I just feel like currently, can you, I don't know. I'd say currently is tough because currently Caddx has been providing standalone VTXs to the market, and that will take some time to dry out. I would say in like, let's say 4 or 6 months from now, will you still be able to buy standalone VTXs for the V2 DJI system?
RunCam sells one, so I don't know if they will continue to.
Do they?
But they do now. Yes, I checked on this like a month ago.
I feel like if I was RunCam, I would want people to use my inferior camera, and I could do that by not selling standalone VTXs, and I could thereby undercut Caddx and drive them out. I'm
sure you absolutely could do that. But if somebody breaks a VTX and you make them buy a bundle for no reason,
that's true.
Yeah.
I guess the VTXs break so seldom, I don't think about that very much. The other thing that I thought was, and again, we're purely in the realm of speculation, like those 120 FPS cameras, why don't they make as many of those as we wish they did? And I think part of the reason is that those sensors or chips are limited. And if that's true, then Caddx is going to put all their 120 FPS sensors and chips into their Walksnail cameras and not their DJI cameras, I would think.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's check out the next story. We got to get moving, I think.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Next up, with our third Caddx story. Because this all goes together.
I moved on too soon. Hang on. Yeah, third Caddx story.
So the third thing is Caddx has made, or Walksnail, however you want to look at it now, has made their betas public. So if you go on their Discord now, you can find a public beta of their firmware. And so you can get that, no problem, easy to get. Also, if you're interested in actually testing and you don't just want to download the firmwares, if you submit an application and you provide a bunch of feedback over time, they will send you coupons. They say for range from $2 to $20, so you can use them on Caddx if you want more Caddx equipment. $20 to $200. Yeah, $20 to $200. And then also, they say that if you bought the Avatar HD system before October 20th, so basically, so 5 days ago or before that, If you email them with your purchase receipt, for every kit you bought, you will get a $30 coupon on CADX.
Wow.
It's just free money. So
Yeah.
if you're going to buy more from them, you can go ahead and get coupons to get cheaper orders from them.
This is a response to the people who said, why did you release the system half-baked, and why are you treating me like a beta tester? It's not fair. And you may feel like that $30 coupon is fair or unfair, but, I mean, it is a nod in that direction that they owe something to these people. That's nice.
Yep. And then last but not least, number 4, we are working on the VRX. So we originally heard that was going to be October. That's obviously been delayed. So they said it is expected to be officially released in the middle of December. So they'll be beta testing some about 30 to 50 pieces in November, and they'll be providing a 50% discount for testers on those. Otherwise, you can see about the middle of December, we should see their VRX coming. So anybody who's worried about the adoption of getting goggles, hopefully at that point you'll be able to get the VRX and get in for cheaper if you've got capable goggles. So.
Yeah, so presumably if that testing goes well, you might be able to actually buy it in the February, March, April timeframe, I would guess.
Well, so they're saying it will be released middle of December. The testing is November.
Oh, my bad. So it's only going to be tested for like 2 or 3 weeks before they release it. And they'll definitely fix any problems they find.
I'm sure there'll be no bugs and no issues whatsoever. One thing I'll say is the fact that they're producing a module that they're slapping into Dominator headsets may be good enough to make it so that they're like, it won't be that big of a change to put it in a VRX.
They're not starting from scratch. Right. It's going to be a box with an HDMI output. Pretty much the only place for them to screw up is the HDMI output, I suppose, and that's not actually rocket science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think that this receiver module has the potential to really shake up the marketplace. I said on my live stream yesterday that the HD0 goggles are set to be the do-it-all FPV goggle, because they can do HD0 built in, analog with a module, and with HDMI input, they can do Walksnail. Once Walksnail releases this module, you could literally fly all 3 systems on these goggles. That's kind of compelling if you're that kind of guy.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's all very, very interesting stuff. What's next, Blunty?
All right. Next up, we've got Redux Air has been basically contacted us and has been around the Facebooks lately, talking to people and pilots and stuff. And they are basically making a big deal about the fact that the T-Motor copied their Full-Fet ESC. So they have a 20x20 ESC.
Is this it? Am I looking at the right one?
I think that might be a different one.
Look like it. Hang on. Yeah, because we talked about both of these in the new product roundup, and they sure do look similar. I cannot. How is it? For real? Sorry, Blunty. Here's the Redux Air one, and what's the T-Motor one called, Blunty?
I'm not sure. I just typed T-Motor 20x20 60 amp, and I found it. Oh no, I typed 8S. Because they call it 8S.
They do. We'll talk about that in a second. Are we going to talk about that?
Yes.
Yeah. So they sure do look similar. We noticed that when we talked about it.
Yeah, they look very similar. And we've seen that before. It's obviously not crazy for that to happen in this industry, that this happens. However, Redux Air is claiming that they produced this themselves. They designed it. And that they basically produced it through Acon, and that the Acon sold that design to, or basically T-Motor bought that design from Acon.
I think we should be really careful about, because we have a statement from Redux. We'll read that in a second. My timeline for this was I started seeing on the internet that people were claiming T-Motor cloned Redux Air, and people messaged me and were like, "Hey, did you hear about this?" And my first question was, who is the OEM? Who's the manufacturer for Redux Air? And when I found out that it was Acon, because Redux Air, in case you're new to this hobby, Redux Air doesn't make the CSC. They don't have a PCB manufacturing facility. The way it works is somebody with smarts, like the guy from Redux Air has showed me files where he has the design files for this PCB, which makes me believe it's likely that he did the actual layout and design for the PCB. He went to Acon and said, hey, can you make this for me? And they said yes, and they negotiated a deal. So Acon is the OEM. And when you find out that two stores that use the same OEM released an identical product, Blunty, the most likely outcome is that the OEM sold the intellectual property to another customer, usually without your permission. I don't know exactly how much of that is my guesswork and how much of that is direct accusations by the guy from Redux Air. I don't want to put words in his mouth that he didn't say.
Direct accusations. It's 100% direct accusations.
He did make those accusations.
Let's pull the statement up. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Here we go.
Yeah, so we'll just, I feel like we should read this, or at least part of this. So
yeah,
basically, we are fully aware of the possibility of parallel inventions. However, it came to our attention that our design for 20x20 component placement made its way to T-Motor's product line. The significance on the chip layout of the Redux 32 Pro is that it solves the problem of a lack of space for full-size MOSFETs in a 20x20 format. T-Motor solved this problem in the past with 12 2-in-1 MOSFETs. The Redux 32 Pro fits all 24 5x6 full-size MOSFETs, plus MCUs and other components. T-Motor purchased our design from our manufacturer 6 months after we teased images of the Redux 32 Pro and employed their pilots to claim it is original. T-Motor's claim of originality defames our character as a company and diminishes our product. T-Motor's employees follow our Facebook fan page where we promoted our AAC. There is no way T-Motor did not know about the Redux 32 when Soren FPV used the Redux 32 to win the 2022 Multi-GP Championship. We popularized the idea of stuffing MOSFETs. We vehemently resent the lies and outright disrespect from T-Motor and the co-conspirators. Claims of originality are untrue. Redux Air is reluctant to do business with T-Motor. Employing children and other parties to perpetuate lies and IP theft is repulsive. So basically, they're very clearly stating that they took this, it's IP theft, it does not belong to them. It's very strong statements.
And my first thought when this happened was that, the first thing I asked was, did you design the PCB Redux Air, or did Acon do it for you? Because another way that this works in the real world is that a company will go to an OEM and say, I want to brand a product with my brand. Can you make me a product to my specifications with my brand on it? And then in that situation, the OEM would go and do all the work of designing. Well, usually they wouldn't design it from scratch. They would adapt one of their existing designs to your specifications. And at that point, if they go and sell it to another customer, unless you have, that's like, well, they did all the work anyway. It sucks, but what can you do? But in this case, if he did the original design for the PCB, then unfortunately, that's just how intellectual property is treated in China. And when you hire a Chinese OEM, you have to assume they're going to steal all your intellectual property. Sorry, that sucks, but that's the cost of doing business. But it does suck. I agree, it does suck at that point, and I think it's unfair.
From the images provided, we don't want to share them all because I wasn't sure directly what was supposed to be shared out of the images. We just shared the statement. Mm-hmm. But from the images, it does seem like they requested the design. Redux requested the design from Acon. They said, hey, we've done one like this. Can you make this in 20x20? They worked with Acon for a while back and forth, spent, development time working with them, did testers, and then eventually came up with this design with Acon. So, they're basically claiming through that it's an issue. So, we just wanted to let you know, basically, what their statement is, where they're at with things, kind of, and that sort of deal. Right?
And I should say, we reached out to T-Motor for a statement. This all happened in the last 3 or 4 days. We reached out to T-Motor for a statement on Sunday, so they had all day Monday to respond if they wanted to. They did not. That could be because they didn't have time, but we did give them a chance to respond. I don't think we were able to get a hold of Acon either. And I also want to say that since we are currently only hearing from one side of the story, I think we should take it with a grain of salt. It's possible that Acon feels that they own this intellectual property because they feel that it was an original design to a customer's specs, and they feel that they had every right to sell it to T-Motor. It's possible. A lot of things are possible here. The takeaway for me is that this is just how business goes in China. If you're a giant company with a lot of pull, you might be able to keep your OEM from selling your IP to another customer for threat of losing your business. But if you're a small guy with a good product, you're going to get ripped off, and it sucks. But everybody should buy. Redux Air ESCs are some of the best, in my opinion. And Acon makes some. Also, I'm not surprised to learn that Acon is their OEM. They make some of the best ESCs. So if you really are angry about this, show your anger by buying Redux Air ESCs, would be my opinion.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
All righty.
Next up, Multi-GP Champs happened, and we wanted to give congratulations to the winners of Multi-GP Champs. So, like many people predicted, MCKFPV has won Multi-GP Champs how many times in a row? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, he's definitely been dominating a lot of the events. He did not Ironman, which is something he normally does, but he did basically do really well. And so second up, we had Leviathann. And third up, we had Noical. So we wanted to point those out for the podium at Champs. And then also we wanted to let you know that, we talked about the HD0 goggle was going to be there. Noical used 90 FPS cam HD0.
Really?
So we just wanted to point that out. That he really started with that. There were also some other folks there who ended up having to go to analog because they had some bugs, and they actually worked out some bugs in the VTX while they were there. There's an overheating thing that happens, and it happens too early. It was happening on the racing line, so they've got that figured out with the new firmware patch that lets it get a little hotter. So
that's a heck of a thing to be a beta tester like that at Champs, but there you go.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to the winners.
Yeah, congratulations to MCK, Leviathann, and Noical.
And congratulations to everyone who got to meet Captain Bry, the Express LRS developer. Okay. Now we've got another story about the AAAC. That's more interesting. Once people find out what it's going to be, I think they'll be more interested in what it is.
Maybe they will. So some of you know, I'm a member of the FPV Freedom Coalition now, and we've been trying to find ways to get information out to people that's a little more digestible. So we've got a video summarizing the AAAC, which is the Advanced Aviation Advisory Committee. And they had a couple of different things happen, basically with their input. And we reviewed them. So we sat down as a group and talked through some of the things that happened. One of the things that I wanted to point out that was a little, I would say absolutely ridiculous. If you skip right to 421,
really,
and play from there, just coincidence.
That's a coincidence, Blunty.
Total coincidence.
Who edited this video, Blunty?
And we're going to play a sound clip at 421. So if you could get that, turn the sound on. So, what have we got first, Josh?
So, first off, we've got a bunch of new...
It's just very, very brief, and so don't know what the rules and regulations are for them.
In the drone community, not everybody really fully understands the FAA's role, or even, I was talking actually with someone in law enforcement on vacation. They said, "You mean, wait, drones are aircraft?" And I almost fell over. So they're not necessarily aware of the FAA's role in regulation of drones and may not actively engage with us.
So yeah, one of the big topics there was educating
just a little bit of perspective there. Like basically she was saying, and that seems to be echoed in some of the stuff, she's seen basically, is that, the law enforcement officers don't even know anything about drones like at all. Like in that quote, she didn't know that, like that law enforcement officer didn't know a drone was considered aircraft legally.
Yeah, by the FAA.
And we're expecting them to be policing remote ID. You know what I mean? So I think just gives some perspective into like where things are at. The other thing is, the only person on the committee who was a police officer, a Dallas PD officer, was just removed from the AAAC in the last round. And so we're not exactly sure why, but he was definitely on our side. He communicated a lot with us, and he was super understanding of what was happening, and one of the only police officers we've spoken to who really knew what was going on. So it is unfortunate that that's the case.
Yeah. The AAAC meeting, are those live streamed as well?
They are live streamed, yes.
I thought so. So, but how long was the meeting?
Like 7 hours. It was a morning and an afternoon session.
Jeez.
So
did you attend the whole thing?
An hour 53 in the morning, hour 30 in the afternoon. So I did watch through it at double speed. I didn't watch it live. And then obviously we tried to summarize it in 6.5 minutes, so you don't have to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to get at is, so again, in case people didn't already know, these all this stuff we're showing is linked down below in the video description. YouTube making video descriptions harder to find. Just look for that show more. But there's links below, and you can watch this. It's a real service that the FPV Freedom Coalition provides, that somebody like you sits through these meetings and then digests it all and puts it into a 6-minute recap. I think that a lot of people's perspective on the FAA is that every 3 months a news article hits that says the FAA has done something that will make their life worse. But what's actually happening is that on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, meetings and conversations are being held. People are discussing. This is in motion, and we can both find out about and influence it, hopefully. And the work the FPV Freedom Coalition does is an essential part of that. So thank you for doing that stuff, Blunty.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
You can find out more at fpvfc.org.
Yeah.
And you can even become a member if you so desire.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. We would appreciate it. The other thing we've got is some more lost stuff we want to let you know real quick, which is pretty big because we've been waiting on this for a while and it's actually been really delayed. So this sort of was last minute, and the FRIA stuff was sort of last minute, but it's basically delayed. Essentially, this is a document detailing CBOs. You know, we talked about CBOs before. CBOs are community-based organizations, which is like the AMA or the FPVFC, the FPV Freedom Coalition. We've also applied to be a CBO. And this basically outlines how you can be a CBO, what you need to submit. So we submitted all our safety guidelines and got that approved. And this lays out both how you can do fixed sites, which are basically like, hey, there's an airport nearby here, but we still want to have a flying field here. So how can we do that? And then basically a fixed site, you define a fixed site, they let you fly in this bubble. You can fly under the CBO guidelines, so you don't have to have like approval for every single person, stuff like that. And then the other thing is that this finally lets us start applying for FRIAs. So we've been waiting to be able to apply for FRIAs, and we were actually really worried that it was going to be like super long time and they were going to find a way to delay it. They were supposed to have it done basically like now or before now, but they finally got it done. So we have also gone in to start applying for FRIAs. You can submit applications so that you can get these areas recognized without remote identification. And it seems like there's not a lot of restrictions on them.
Yeah, this is a big deal because a hopeful outcome for people who are annoyed that remote ID is a thing would be that you could easily define the FRIA, the FRIA sites, because at FRIA sites you can fly legally without having remote ID broadcast on your aircraft. And so the hope was that you could freely and easily define FRIAs to be, anywhere you want to fly. And then remote ID would fade into the background a little bit, especially for hobbyists. But they didn't tell us what it would take to be a community-based organization. And we didn't know how hard it would be to define a FRIA. And now it looks like those things are potentially much more accessible than we had feared they might be.
I think there was some concern that this advisory circular would come out and super hardcore limit the amount of places you could have a FRIA and put all these restrictions on it. But what it actually did this to fixed sites, which are only their authorized restricted sites, and essentially just like put up a page for the CBOs to submit to say like, hey, this place should be a FRIA. Here's why we think it should be a FRIA. And then you submit the application. So we'll find out how the applications work, how much gets approved. We still have about a year until people need to start using modules. So we definitely have time, but it is good to see this happening. And hopefully we'll have a lot of positive news there. And a lot of people can have their own FRIA.
Yeah, it looks quite likely that FPV Freedom Coalition will be able to become a FRIA, a CBO. They have taken the necessary steps like becoming a 501c3 and coming up with safety guidelines and doing all this paperwork and legwork. And now you've submitted the application and hopefully that will go through. And I immediately asked Dave Messina, I said, so Dave, what are the chances of getting my house declared as a FRIA? And obviously this is all still up in the air, but he said, as long as you're in Class G airspace, it seems like that might be doable. And and I thought, well, that's extremely encouraging because if I can, my house isn't special. It's special to me, but presumably one service that FPV Freedom Coalition could provide to the community is to define FRIAs where community members want them to be. and act as that go-between. And I'm not saying that I don't know if you're prepared to make a statement about that. But
if that's possible, we are planning to attempt to do that. We just don't know how flexible that will be, right? We don't know like exactly if that will be like sort of what the FAA wants us to do. But if that's something that could be done, I believe we'll be working to do that, for sure.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's very exciting. Good. That's some positive news about remote ID. Which
a lot of people are like, fuck it, it's still remote ID. We have to put things on our drone. It's the worst. But for the rest of you who are interested, we at least have some positivity going on there. Yeah. So,
my theory, I'll say one more thing about this. I know we're coming up to the end of the hour. My theory is that if you are going to not comply with the law, it still benefits you for the law to be as liberal as possible, because it makes it easier for you to have plausible deniability and fly under the radar. The more draconian a law is, the easier it is for them to get you. And so even if you don't intend to do anything about this, you might still decide, hey, I'm going to declare my yard a free, and it's going to make it easier for me to post videos on the internet or whatever without getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Next up, the DJI drone data leak we got to look at. And a lot of people were freaking out about this, but I wanted to put this in the news specifically to tell you, don't worry, because this is only how it's going to happen, and this isn't that big of a deal. So let's talk about what happened. Basically, DJI drones, right, can be collected through aeroscope systems. So basically, aeroscope systems or other drone ID tracking systems can drag those drone IDs in from the DJI drones that are flying around and get pathways and information. And so basically, DJI doesn't collect this information, or at least if they do, it's somewhere that's not anywhere we know about.
They say they don't.
But a third party was collecting this information, right? Obviously, because some people are going to do that, who have these aeroscope systems or other ways to do this. And they stored that data on an Amazon web server. And they bought the cheap plan on the Amazon web server, so it had no security. And basically, somebody found the access to that, hacked in, and got these drone data IDs from the Amazon web server. Okay. In reality, all they got was, drone ID, location, and time, essentially. So it's just a map of where these drones ID flew and when. It's not like super hardcore. They didn't get your credit card number, right?
It's not tiable to any individual person, right?
Correct. As far as we know, there's not like, you would have to contact DJI and they would have to look up the serial in their database to know who that person was. Yeah. But it is something that we will be seeing more and more, because more and more people will have these abilities to track this, as not only as we have more drones, but as we have remote ID and everybody's running remote ID apps to collect all this data. This is just going to be aggregated. And something we talked about as FPVFC is that one thing we're going to see is that, and we're already hearing about it, is companies are going to essentially buy locations in cities, and they're going to have broadcasters all across the city, and they're going to sell location data for the drones that are in the city. Based on that data. And it'll be basically big data farms based on your drone information.
You see it happening now with airplanes, with the ADS-B stuff, where the airplanes broadcast their location and no one there's no central database of that, but people just put up listening stations and collect the information because it's valuable information to know where Elon Musk's jet is or Jeff Bezos's jet is or whatever. And we can assume that same thing is going to happen with remote ID. Yeah. So the takeaway from this story is, no, this is not proof that DJI was aggregating your data. This was a third party. And no, identifiable information was not really leaked. And it just is this one person who was aggregating it that had weak security.
Yeah. Basically, this publicly available information is going to be leaked more like
that's
this
the takeaway
because people are going to be publicly collecting this more and more and more. So it's just sort of par for the course, unfortunately.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, let's talk about something happier, something more upbeat. Botgrinder has been saying for years now that he wants to raise money to build a drone park, an FPV drone park. He has finally decided to... I pushed a button, but it didn't do what I meant for it to do. He has finally decided to go for it, and he's put up a GoFundMe. There's a link in the video description where he wants to build a FPV park. He's trying to raise $70,000 to buy some land and start building obstacles that people can come and fly at. That's really extraordinary. Yeah.
Yeah, if that's something you want to support, we've got the GoFundMe link in the description and in the chat. We put it in the Discord chat for everybody to check out. They're doing a 90-day fundraiser on that. And he's already up to almost $14,000. So.
Yeah, he said that if he doesn't raise all the money he expects to need in 90 days, he will refund all of it. He's trying to buy a couple acres of land out somewhere between, I think he said Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And in a rural area where $70,000 can buy you a few acres of land. I hope. I'm kind of surprised to hear that in this day and age. But I talked on my live stream about some of my concerns and reservations about a project like this. But that's not what we're going to do here. If people want to find out more about that, it'll probably be posted to the live stream clips channel. I'm going to keep it positive, though, and say that something like this always starts with just basically one guy with a dream and sometimes ends with something really cool. So you want to find out more about his ideas for it by watching this video.
Check.
Yes, that's him. He wants to have a campground. This is Eric Sakoff's park, which is probably in many ways the inspiration for Botgrinder's plan. He's got some renders of things that you might like to be there. Where was it? Oh, there we go. Wants to have a campground where you can come and camp and etc. etc. He's been streaming. I think he's streaming every night this week to try and promote it. So if you've got questions about it, you can go ask him over on his stream. But I'm going to be donating. We'll see how it goes. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. So,
yeah.
All right. Okay, moving on. This
Next
drone
up
is built for chasing.
Yeah, we try to showcase odd builds, different drone builds that we've seen before. I thought this one was kind of neat. This guy was having trouble chasing some stuff because, he talks about the fact that, one of the major issues he has is that when you're chasing a car, right, and you're going around a corner, you either get to choose to be fast or you get to choose to follow the car around the corner without spinning out, right?
I know what you mean.
Like, his whole issue is that if you're at speed, you have to tilt the entire drone to slow down, right? And you have to do that a lot of people typically do that by almost like swirling around or like, sort of turning sideways. You're trying to jostle yourself and you're not following the correct camera line. You're following the line to get the drone in, right?
Yes, because the car slows down. I've experienced this in my vast experience chasing cars. But I was chasing cars around an oval, and the car slows down in the turn, and your up tilt more or less dictates how fast you need to go. So in order to slow down with the car, you either have to pitch back, which means to keep the car in frame, you have to descend, or you have to swing wide. But if you just want to chase the car through the turn and maintain a fixed position, you simply can't do it with a fixed up tilt angle. Is that the gist of it?
Now.
Until now.
So this is a pretty neat idea. I've never considered this before. But basically what he does is he says, I want to maintain this angle, but I want to fly slower. So how can I do that? Well, add backwards thrust was his solution. So he added a fifth motor on the back that with a slider, he can add backwards pull to the drone to slow himself down.
Backwards pull?
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's his idea, essentially.
I thought you were going to tell me this was like, do you remember that old, maybe it was Eachine? They had a drone with a pusher motor on the back. And I thought it was going to be pushing you in the straights. You're saying it's basically like active braking.
I think it's sort of the same idea, maybe, but I don't know. For me, from what I can tell, it looks like it's blowing, like it's pushing you back, and then like you can slow it or speed it up. But maybe it is the other way. Maybe I'm confused about the direction.
Let's see if we can see how the prop is.
Yeah.
It's hard to see the prop. I think that prop looks to me like it's pushing him forward, just based on the angle. It makes more sense to me because you would be wasting battery power if you had one motor fighting the other.
So then but I guess I don't understand the gain then. So what do you gain?
Well, what you would do, I mean, I could watch the video, but
I did watch the video, but I guess I'm confused because I don't understand why it helps. You can slow all the motors down. Why does one extra motor to slow down matter?
Well, what I would do if I were to invent this right now, just based on the limited stuff I know, is you would use that in the straights to propel you faster so that you didn't have to pitch forward to go faster. So you have a relatively low up tilt angle that lets you like get down and close to the car, and you don't have to pitch forward to go fast. In the straights, you push with the motor, and then going into the corner, you shut the motor down, and drag slows you down.
I see what you're saying. You're trading off work for them, on the motors, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, it lets you separate your up tilt angle from your thrust. Yeah. Cool Cat thinks I'm right. He did something clever, which is the old Eachine or whatever company it was that had a pusher motor. The pusher motor was mounted straight on the back. And the problem with that was that when you pitch forward, then you push the motor on, it pushed you down. But he's tilted the motor to match his up tilt angle, so it's always pushing him forward, although it is also providing a tilting torque since it's mounted off the back. It'd be even better to mount it sort of under the center of gravity. That would make landing difficult. This is very clever. This is very clever.
It's an interesting idea. I mean, the biggest thing to me was just that, he gets footage where, he's learning it, basically. He has to learn how to control it a little differently because you've got to manipulate a slider, right? Mm-hmm. But, he's basically having better success, at least keeping it in the frame,
Yeah. You can see him pulling to the outside there. That's the problem that this is presumably designed to solve. He's still sort of learning it, right?
Yeah.
Here in the straight, the motorcycle pulls away. And what you'll see pilots do is they will pitch forward and climb because they need to pitch forward to get the speed, and they have to climb to keep the subject in view. In this case, he's just pulling away because he's a motorcycle. But this would let you sort of step on the gas without having to pitch forward. Now, he's still swinging to the outside on the corners. So it seems like it's not perfect, but it's very clever.
Yeah, neat idea. Definitely, for sure.
Interesting. Very interesting. This is I think there's a chance that we'll see more cinematic high-speed chasing drones adapting this. That this is one of those things that it's not a brand new idea, but this is the first time I've seen it actually have a point other than just being a stupid novelty.
So we didn't show it this time because we got in trouble last time, and I didn't want to even list it or whatever, but Evan Turner did F1 chasing recently again. And he was there with Beverly Hills Aerials, and a lot of people were complaining about how bad the footage was because he wasn't allowed to go over the track. He was having to, cut around. He couldn't go as fast as the cars were, right? All these limitations, basically.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, in those situations, it certainly seems like a gimbal is just better, right? And I wonder, how much, is FPV really better for this application versus like a direct camera versus gimbaling it,
Yeah, I mean the speed and agility of the FPV drones certainly helps. I mean, you could make an argument that the ideal tool is actually a Cine lifter with a gimbal on top.
Yes,
maybe
that's or on the bottom, and you're just going super fast, right? Yeah,
I think
use 8 motors, giant build, and you're dragging it.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I think it's easy to see why people moved away from camera drones like DJI drones because they just don't have the speed and performance to do this kind of stuff. But and I personally like the FPV perspective and the way the drone moves. I wouldn't like to see a gimbal shot, but I know that that's probably not true for the directors.
I was going to say, I think 98% of the audience that's watching those live feeds would rather just have a really cool shot with a gimbal camera that's right above the car,
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's where we're going to end up. We saw that with Cine lifters. Cine lifters still do, but originally Cine lifters didn't have gimbals. They were just big, octocopters with a camera mounted on them, similar to an FPV drone. And now we've seen more and more of that same type of high-performance platform, but with a gimbal on it. And there's no question that that kind of it opens up a flexibility that you don't have any other way.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. We got a cinematic of the week this week, Blunty. A cinematic video that we want to share with you. I'm going to play it. I'm going to not play the sound. Should I play the sound? Is it safe? I'm not going to get a copyright strike?
Don't have any idea if it's safe.
Okay, well, there's a link in the video description, and I'm going to show you just enough to get you really interested because the original creator deserves the views. But this is Joshua Turner, Stromboli Volcano.
Let's go to about a minute. Yeah, that's at least, and then we could stop about a minute.
Beautiful.
Yeah, great footage. Wonderful footage.
Okay. Volcano.
Yes.
Ooh, that's a volcano. Whoa, don't fly near that. Sheesh.
Some excellent shots of active volcano.
Wow. Jeez.
Pretty cool stuff.
That's the earth is just being like. All right, so this is the point where I get totally engrossed in the video and want to watch more of it, but then I don't want to ruin it and show you all this. So go check that out. It's linked in the video description. Great work from Joshua Turner with the Stromboli Volcano. Very, very cool.
Yeah. Last up, we've got It's Barely News, where we go through some of the stories that we didn't want to list in the main listing. They're probably not that interesting, but we can get through them, and we'll let you know about them because there were at least enough to list. Mm-hmm. So first up, we've got a company called DronePrep, which is a drone delivery company who is working with the Royal Mail in the UK. And they've done the first delivery of official mail and supplies through the Royal Mail to different islands in the UK and the surrounding areas there, to the Isles of Sicily. So they're saying that already they're saving money because of the cost of the plane flights that they were doing and how often they're doing them, and they think this is going to be a huge boon for the area and make it easier to get this stuff around. So pretty cool.
It's very interesting. That's potentially one of the weird places where drones make the most sense. Like, it's hard to imagine that you loading up a plane and flying a plane once a day, like given the amount of cargo a drone can carry. It's hard to imagine that it's cheaper than a plane to fly a drone, but a small remote island with not many people, maybe it makes more sense to fly drones, I guess. I guess that's what they're saying.
Yeah, they are more like the long range drones are like a wing, sort of thing. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see this stuff happening. And the other thing they mentioned is that they were losing a lot of money and time because they couldn't fly in the fog. And these drones can do that. There's no site to worry about.
Well, and there's no person on board. We lose the mail. Yeah. Big deal.
Exactly right.
Yeah, very cool. What's up next? And it's barely
next up, the FAA has cleared another site. We just wanted to let you know that we've talked about this stuff before, but the FAA has cleared another site for the New York Drone Corridor for BVLOS UAS operations, which means that now there are more operations that can happen beyond visual line of sight without any restrictions. So this is basically a big area they cordon off, and they say, hey, if you want to do drone tests here, whatever you're trying to do, you can do them in these areas. And this is the 7th area they've set up. So pretty cool.
Yeah, very nice. Somewhere where people can do beyond visual line of sight legally.
Yeah, they got to do testing on this stuff, so we got a bunch of places for them to do it.
Alrighty. Next up.
Yeah, next up we've got some farmers are turning to drones to monitor livestock and crops as floodwaters are isolating their paddocks. Basically, a bunch of farmers were flooded out of their homes in New Zealand, and they're using drones to go check on all their livestock and make sure everything's okay, in lieu of having to try to get back there and not know what's going on. So yeah. I think that's pretty cool. They can decide what to do based on drones and save a lot of time and hassle.
Yeah, they're able to see, how close the livestock is to being surrounded by water and whether they should get them out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Always good to hear stories about drones helping animals. That's just the best stories we ever share. We got one more. We got a drone that lifts a human?
Yeah, for fishing, in fact.
Of course.
So these guys built what they're calling the world's first, and it might be true. I was at this video. They built a drone to lift people. So, and they go through some of their stuff they worked on. This reminds me of, do you remember the balloon man?
Yeah.
That took off in the chair?
Oh, God. Oh, that's going to be expensive. Jesus. Oh, man.
So they went through a lot of testing before they put a person under it, for sure.
Sure.
But yeah, they finally got it to the point where they could get somebody picked up. And their project to do with it was to pick a guy up and have him fish off of a chair and drink a beer off of a chair hanging from the drone. So
it's always good to do these things over water.
Yes, 100%. It's a good choice.
If anything goes wrong, you just bail.
Yeah.
That is a meaty drone. Like, what is their day job that they can afford to build this drone?
I don't know. Over and over again, right?
The channel has 4.42 thousand subscribers, so it's not their YouTube channel. How does a channel with 4,000 subscribers build something like this? Who are these?
I'm gonna guess it does not come from comes from personal fun.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's
pretty
amazing.
Cool stuff. Not very effective for the job, right?
Oh, sure. You mean of fishing?
Yeah. Not gonna actually help with fishing much.
No. I mean, I'm no expert on, I know you actually know a thing or two about fishing. I'm going to guess that the drone is scaring away the fish.
That's accurate. That's an accurate statement. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay.
Anyway.
Well, I imagine these guys' inbox is full of people asking them, can you build me drone that can carry 2 kilogram over a secured area?
That's very true. I'm sure they are. Yeah.
And that is the last story of the night.
Yeah.
Somebody's saying this is old. This is old. Well, guess what? If you think there's other news we should be carrying, news at fpvknowitall.com. Email us, news@fpvknowitall.com with any of your submissions.
Just so you know, the news doesn't have to be new. It just has to be something we haven't shown before that we think is interesting. So
yeah. We'll show whatever we want. Abraham, thank you for a $2 super chat. Are we going to be able to see the live stream from 1024? I'm sure eventually you'll see it. Yeah.
All right.
Why is it private and not public? Yeah. You can listen to the podcast. The podcast will be going up normally, and live stream clips will be going up on the live stream clips channel. So I'm not going to tell you why that live stream is not up. I'm going to keep that to myself. But if you want to catch highlights from the live stream from yesterday, you can subscribe to Joshua Bardwell live stream clips channel. That is linked in the video description as well. And you get Blunty makes highlights of my live streams. So you can catch some stuff there as well. If you want to listen to an audio podcast of the live stream, patrons get access to audio podcasts. You can join my Patreon. So thank you for the donation, Abraham. All right.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, also, as long as I'm plugging my stuff, ItsBlunty.com is Blunty's website where you can join his Patreon. Most of the people who want to join your Patreon are people on my Discord server who you help. So I'm not sure how that works, but thank you. And I should join your Patreon. I assume I'm a patron, but
I think you are.
Yeah, I should be. And also Blunty does one-on-one calls if you want to get some help with your drone. So
yeah.
All righty, guys. I did not leak my new address, Rain Motorsports. My address is not a secret. My phone number is private. So, but anyway, that's going to be it, folks. Happy flying, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Bye.